Why aren't you shaking, human? One word from me, and my pet will devour you. The negotiation chamber aboard the Valdric warship hummed with tension as thick as the recycled atmosphere. Ambassador Grant stood across from Overlord Thax, whose crimson scales gleamed under the harsh overhead lights. Behind the Overlord, a massive creature stirred in the shadows. Its 6 eyes glowing like dying stars, its breathing a rhythmic growl that echoed off the metal walls. Thax leaned forward, his massive frame dwarfing the simple human in his plain gray suit. The Overlord's clawed hand gestured toward the beast behind him, a predator native to his homeworld that had torn through entire battalions during the frontier wars. You dare refuse my terms? Thax's voice rumbled like thunder across mountains. Do you not see what stands behind me? This is a Ravager, human. One command from my lips, and it will reduce you to nothing but scattered remains across this floor. Grant adjusted his glasses calmly, reviewing the datapad in his hands. He looked up at the towering alien warlord with the same expression one might use when reviewing a grocery list. Your terms include complete control of the Deneb system, unrestricted mining rights on 17 colonized worlds, and a tribute of 10,000 tons of processed titanium annually, Grant said flatly. The answer remains no. Thax slammed both fists on the negotiation table, causing the metal to dent inward. The Ravager behind him roared, rising to its full height of nearly 4 meters. Saliva dripped from its multiple rows of teeth, each one longer than a human finger. The beast's scales rippled with bioluminescent patterns that supposedly hypnotized prey before the kill. Why aren't you shaking, human? Thax bellowed, his eyes wide with genuine confusion. Can you not comprehend your situation? Your species is weak, fragile. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. You are prey in a galaxy of predators. One word from me, and my pet will devour you. Grant set down his datapad and folded his hands on the table. He met the Overlord's gaze without flinching. I can comprehend the situation perfectly well, Overlord Thax. You have a large carnivore. It looks hungry. You believe this gives you leverage. Grant paused, his expression unchanging. It doesn't. The Overlord's translator implant struggled with the casual dismissal, recycling the words twice before Thax could process them. His scales flushed darker with rage. You mock me? You mock the Ravager? This beast has hunted across 12 worlds. It has killed warriors 3 times your size. It lives only to serve me and feed on my enemies. Then you've trained it poorly, Grant said. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The Ravager's handler, a smaller Valdric warrior standing to the side, hissed in outrage. Thax's claws scraped against the damaged table, leaving deep gouges in the metal. Explain yourself, human, before I decide that negotiations have concluded permanently. Grant stood, smoothing his suit jacket. He walked around the table, moving closer to the Overlord and his beast. The Ravager tracked him with all 6 eyes, its muscles bunching beneath its scales, ready to pounce. You want to know why I'm not shaking? Grant stopped 3 meters from the creature, well within its striking range. Because I understand something you clearly don't. Fear is a response to genuine danger, and I'm looking at a scenario I've seen played out 1,000 times on my homeworld. Your world has Ravagers? Thax scoffed. No, but we have something far more instructive. Grant turned to face the Overlord fully, his back now to the Predator. We have history. Specifically, we have the history of what happens when one species tries to intimidate another by showing off a dangerous animal. The Ravager growled, a sound that made the deck plates vibrate. Grant didn't turn around. Your Ravager is impressive, truly. But do you know what my species did when we encountered creatures that wanted to eat us? We didn't run. We didn't shake. We studied them. We learned their patterns. We figured out their weaknesses. And then we made them obsolete. Grant walked to the observation window, gesturing toward the planet below. Earth hung in the void, blue and white, and utterly unremarkable to alien eyes. That planet down there? It used to have predators that would terrify your Ravager. Creatures with jaws that could crush bone. Carnivores that hunted in packs. Apex predators that had ruled their domains for millions of years. Do you know where they are now? Thax said nothing, but his scales had lightened to a cautious orange. Most are extinct. Not because we hunted them all, though we certainly could have. No, they're gone because we changed the world so fundamentally that there was no place left for them. The ones that survived? We put them in zoos. We study them. Children visit them on school trips and eat frozen treats, while staring at creatures that once ruled the food. Chain. Grant turned back to face the Overlord, the predators that we allowed to continue existing near us. We domesticated them. We bred wolves into dogs that sleep in our beds and play with our children. We turned wildcats into housecats that beg for food and chase laser pointers. We didn't do this through strength or natural weapons. We did it through patience, intelligence, and an absolute refusal to accept that our physical limitations defined our place in the natural order. The Ravager had gone quiet, sensing perhaps the shift in the room's dynamics. Its handler gripped his control rod tighter, uncertainty crossing his features. So when you ask me why I'm not shaking, Grant continued, his voice never rising above a conversational tone, it's because I'm doing the math. I'm calculating how long it would take that Ravager to cross the distance between us. I'm noting the slight favor it shows for its right front leg, suggesting an old injury. I'm observing that its eyes track movement, but seem less responsive to changes in light, indicating possible tunnel vision. I'm considering 17 different ways to injure or kill it if necessary, using nothing but objects in this room. You're bluffing, Thax said, but his voice had lost its thunder. Am I? Your species evolved as apex predators on a high-gravity world. You're strong, fast, and naturally armored. Impressive. But my species conquered a planet while being weaker than almost everything else on it. We did it by being smarter, more adaptable, and more ruthless than any predator could ever be. We turned disadvantages into advantages. We made tools. We worked together. We never, ever accepted defeat. Grant picked up his datapad again. So here's the reality of our situation. Overlord Thax, that Ravager doesn't frighten me, because I know that if you give the order, one of two things will happen. Either your beast succeeds in killing me, which will result in the immediate glassing of this ship by the 3 human alliance, destroyers currently positioned at precise firing solutions around your vessel. Or it fails, because I've already identified which exposed power conduit I'll push it into when it lunges, electrocuting it with enough voltage to stop its heart. Thax glanced at his tactical display. 3 red icons had indeed appeared on his sensors, close enough to fire before his shields could fully energize. You wouldn't sacrifice yourself, Thax said, but doubt crept into his words. Wouldn't I? Overlord, my species has sent millions of individuals to their deaths for causes they believed in. We've charged into machine gun fire, flown explosive-laden aircraft into enemy ships, held defensive positions against impossible odds. We've done all of this not because we were fearless, but because we decided that some things mattered more than our individual survival. Do you really think I'm not prepared to die to ensure you understand that humanity will not be intimidated? The ambassador's eyes held something then, something that made Thax's predatory instincts scream warnings. It wasn't the hot rage of a warrior or the cold calculation of a rival predator. It was something else entirely. It was the absolute certainty of someone who had already made peace with every possible outcome. Let me tell you a story, Overlord, Grant said, settling back into his chair. About 400 years ago, a human explorer landed on an island filled with massive reptilian predators. Creatures that had never seen humans before and had no reason to fear us. Do you know what happened to those predators? Thax shook his head slowly. Within 200 years, many were extinct. Not because we intended to wipe them out, but because we were there, and they were in our way. That's what my species does, Overlord. We don't mean to be destroyers. We don't wake up planning extinction. But we survive. We persist. We spread. And anything that tries to stop us either adapts or disappears. Grant stood again, straightening his jacket. So now, let's discuss new terms. Fair terms. Terms that recognize that humanity is not prey, has never been prey, and will never be prey, no matter how many impressive pets you parade before us. We're willing to share the Deneb system. We'll negotiate mining rights on a subset of those worlds. And the tribute demand is off the table entirely. In exchange, we'll provide technological assistance with your aging fleet systems and preferential trade status. And if I refuse? Thax asked quietly. Then negotiations end. You return to your empire with nothing, and we continue expanding in this sector, with or without your cooperation. The choice, Overlord, has always been yours. The Ravager was never part of the equation. For a long moment, the chamber was silent except for the beast's breathing. Then Thax made a gesture, and the handler led the Ravager from the room. The Overlord's scales had settled into a neutral gray. Your species is either the bravest or the most insane I've encountered, Thax said. Perhaps both, Grant acknowledged. But we're here, we're staying, and we're not backing down. Shall we proceed with realistic negotiations? Thax looked at the human, really looked at him, seeing past the soft skin and lack of claws to the steel underneath. He thought of his empire, his people, and the countless wars they'd won through intimidation and superior force. He thought about what it meant that this small, fragile creature had stood before a Ravager without fear. Very well. Ambassador Grant, let us negotiate as equals. Grant smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Now we're getting somewhere. As the two sat down to hammer out terms that would shape the sector for decades to come, the Ravager was led to its holding pen, still confused about why the small creature hadn't run. In the beast's simple mind, there were predators and prey. It didn't understand that it had just met something that refused to be either.